Hello learners, I hope that you have understood the national income accounting and income determination which we had done in earlier videos and had uploaded many videos related to national income accounting and income determination. So I request you to subscribe my channel and please share the link to other students also so that they can also get benefit of the concept we are learning. So today we'll be learning the concept of excess demand and we'll do very important question related to excess demand. I'll be sharing these questions in the description section and you can see them, and if you have any doubt you can ask in the comment box also. Okay, so let us start with some of the question from excess demand, and I'll be sharing a document with you so that you will be able to understand it very well. These are some of the important questions. Now you can see related to excess demand. So see, the first question given is give the meaning of deflationary gap. Now I have written it 2 marks question. So you will come to know that how much we should write in 2 marks question. Deflationary gap. Now inflation means when the prices go on rising and deflation means when prices go on falling. And deflation means that when we are unable to buy the goods, even if there is supply, there is no demand. Means aggregate demand is less and aggregate supply is more. So it also happens when people are unemployed and they do not have income, so they cannot demand. That is also there. When there is involuntary unemployment. Now what is involuntary unemployment? When person wants to work but he is not getting work. When person wants to work but he is not getting work. And then there is shortfall in aggregate demand because the person is not having any source of income. If you don't have any source of income, how can you demand? So when demand is less, then what happens is the demand is less and supply is more, and it results in deflationary gap. We'll also do it in long question with the help of graph. What is the meaning of inflationary gap? Second question, the excess of aggregate demand. When aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Now the components of aggregate demand are C plus I plus G plus EX. So C stands for consumption, I stands for investment, G stands for government expenditure, and X stands for export minus import. That means net export. So this is inflationary gap. What is meant by excess demand in macro? When we are saying that excess demand means it is the situation of the demand, aggregate demand becoming more than aggregate supply. So it is also like we can say that it is also a situation of inflation. So excess demand is also a situation of inflation. And we can also say that when aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, then it becomes excess demand. What is involuntary unemployment? That we have already discussed. And when a person wants to work, but people are willing to work, but they are not getting work. That is involuntary. Voluntary means when people are getting work, but they do not want to work. What is full employment? It is a situation when all those who want to work are getting work. All those people who want to work are getting work. This is the situation of full employment. Then what is deficient demand? When demand is less than aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply, means there is deficiency in demand. So I hope that you understand the meaning of deficiency. When there is less demand as compared to supply, then it is deficient demand. What is underemployment? Underemployment is a situation when less people are working than required. Means we require 10 people, but only 6 people are working and they are not even fully utilized. That is underemployment. Now see this 3 marks question which can come. Explain the distinction between voluntary and involuntary unemployment. We have already done. Voluntary unemployment means a situation when people do not want to work. They are getting work, but they are not willing to work. Whereas involuntary means when people are getting work, but they are not ready to work. The reasons may be many. The reasons may be that they are not getting proper wages. They are not getting work according to their education level, or if they are aspiring for more income and they are not getting income. That is also the reason. What is the meaning and implication? Now, meaning we have already discussed, but what is the implication of deflationary gap? When we talk about deflationary gap, we come to know that what is our economy going through? Our economy is going through a situation where aggregate supply is there, but aggregate demand is not there. Now, see, this is the graph, because in 3 marks question, you are supposed to make graph also. AD is given, this is AD, aggregate demand, and this is aggregate supply. We have written is Y also, because Y is equal to aggregate supply. Y is equal to C plus S. Aggregate supply is also equal to C plus S. See, I will explain it again. Y is equal to C plus S, and S is also equal to C plus S. That is why we have taken Y is equal to AS. So in place of AS, we have written Y. See this. So this is 45-degree line from the, it is an angle of 45-degree made from the x-axis. And in the previous video, I had told the reason also. And this is aggregate demand. So first, see, first aggregate demand was this. This was the equilibrium position. And then aggregate demand became less. Then equilibrium also shifted to this. And the difference between the previous aggregate demand and the new aggregate demand has created a gap. This is known as deflationary gap. Okay. This side, if we'll say, if it would have happened vice versa, that it would have happened that this was aggregate demand first and then new equilibrium was this, then it would have become inflationary gap. So as a result of this, producers will stop producing, because when they will feel that aggregate demand is going on becoming less, they will stop producing, because their things will not be sold and supply will become useless. Now see, one more question is there. In an economy, aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply. Now what is this? When aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply, it will be inflationary pressure. Inflation will be there, as it is going on in our country, and Sri Lanka is facing acute inflation at present. So price level will go higher and higher as it is going on in our country. And yesterday, our RBI chief has also announced, Governor Shri Shakti Kant Das. He is the governor of RBI, and he has announced increased in repo rate also. So this is one of the result of inflationary gap. So inflationary gap encourages producers to increase their output. Now they know that more demand is there and they are unable to supply. So when there is more demand, then what they do? They want to supply more. And then there is question number 11. Explain the problem of deficient demand in economy. Deficient demand we have already discussed. But what are the two measures we can? This we have to discuss. The two measures which can be taken are, because deficient demand is deficient. So government can reduce tax rate. This can be physical method. They can reduce tax rate. They can also give subsidy also. They can give subsidy also. This will be one method of increasing demand. And second method is that central bank can reduce bank rate. So opposite of what has happened. Yesterday, the news was that RBI governor has announced that Monetary Policy Council has decided to increase the repo rate by 4.5%. And it has happened after 45 months, they have increased this. And this has happened due to inflation. And now in opposite situation, the repo rate will be decreased. Okay. So let us see. And then 12th question is, if we have to differentiate between inflationary gap and deflationary gap. Inflationary gap, rising the price level. Deflationary gap, falling the price level. Inflationary gap, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Deflationary gap, aggregate demand is more and aggregate supply, aggregate supply is more and aggregate demand is less. So we can explain in this manner. In inflationary gap, there is overemployment, and in deflationary gap, there is underemployment. Okay. So we have to Yes, again, see, again, then we have used this graph. Now we have shown inflation gap. At that time only, I had told you that suppose the first aggregate demand curve was this, and this was the equilibrium, and then it shifted upward, aggregate demand increased, and the equilibrium also increased. It also shifted to G. Then the difference between these both aggregate demand is known as inflationary gap. This situation, when prices are rising and aggregate demand is becoming more, that means it is inflationary gap. Okay, so students, these are the questions which we have done, and we'll be doing more questions in the next video, and I hope that you have understood it. If you want more such information, or if you want me to explain you in Hindi, then you can ask in the comment section. You can write in the comment section, and please subscribe my channel, and please share this link to other students also, so that they can get benefit of it. So thanks a lot, and enjoy learning economics.